Hey guys, Untouchable here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a very special day. 100 years in the making. On this exact day, 100 years ago, June 28, 1924, a tragedy struck the city of Sandusky and the city of Lorain. Today, 100 years later, we commemorate the people that died, the people that survived, in two cities that could not be stopped. Won't you join me as I stand very near to where the tornado touched down in my hometown of Lorain, Ohio, on that very sweltering summer day. Join me as I go into detail about the Lorain and Sandusky tornado. Thank you. Right now, the date is June 28th, 2024. And today, I stand in front of the Lakeview Park bathhouse. 100 years ago, the scene was much different, although it was actually more similar in a way. Heat and a very cool Lake Erie. Droves of people here swimming, bathing, enjoying a hot summer evening. Just before supper time. It's 5 o'clock. The skies darkened above Lake Erie. Bathers pay no mind to a thunderstorm that always comes up usually on these hot summer days in Northeast Ohio. Suddenly, a funnel appeared out of nowhere. People scrambled in their bathing suits to their cars, or just to run home. Most took shelter inside the bathhouse. Others went underneath the piers, or just ran for their houses. Unfortunately for the people in the bathhouse, disaster was imminent. The tornado quickly made a right turn, picking cars up, people, occupants, and hitting the bathhouse dead on. Those that were not killed in the bathhouse were buried, trapped in the days to come. People having a good time, birds chirping, the sounds of summer, the waves crashing against the sand at Lakeview Park in Lorain. People are enjoying these very beautiful days here in late June. People bathing, swimming, or just sitting out enjoying the sun. But 100 years ago, fate would have something deadly in store for those bathing on the beach. 10 minutes from now, at 4:35 in the evening, on June 28, 1924, Lakeview Beach was packed. It was before supper time, and everybody was getting that last swim in before the day. Like I said, it was in the low 80s that day, so it was a very hot day. Humid even. And, like I said, 10 minutes later, or 10 minutes from now, 100 years ago, a tornado struck right here. This is the piers of the bathhouse. This is the back part of the bathhouse. And these piers are the actual piers that survived that day. Many people took shelter underneath these piers and survived. Many people that went into the bathhouse to seek shelter in there did not. At least, I believe it was 12 people were killed in the bathhouse that day. And further 8 more were killed at the State Theater in downtown Lorain. I'm just going to take a look to show you what it's like today, and then I also have postcards and photographs from that day 100 years ago. Right now, folks, we're looking at a drone view of Lakeview Park, and this is basically the way the tornado went. This is roughly the path it took. It hit the bathhouse dead on right there, and this rose garden wasn't put in until 1932, but this is what the path the tornado took. And then it hit, if you look right there in front, that white house right there in front of you, it actually started going that way and then continued going towards downtown. Now, let's take a look at some photos from that horrific event. After the tornado hit Lakeview Park, it stormed through some of the residential areas of downtown Lorain before heading to downtown itself. After going through downtown, passing over Broadway Avenue, it went through the Baltimore and Ohio ore dock facilities, across the Black River, and into the American Shipbuilding Company. damaging both severely. After that, it decided to enact some more revenge on the town of Lorain by destroying homes on the east side, on Colorado Avenue, and streets beyond. After that, the tornado stifled, went back over Lake Erie, and became a waterspout once more, touching down back in Sheffield, Avon, and finally dying down just outside of Cleveland. But the tornado was not done, not even the storm system. The storm system itself continued on, spawning more tornadoes in Pennsylvania. The storm enacted a terrible toll on the two cities. 8 people dead in Sandusky, 72 dead in Lorain. Over 350 people injured between the two cities. And a staggering cost of $12 million in damages per 1924 standards. Now, I do want to make this very clear. At the time, weather reports were not well understood. Tornadoes were never understood that well either at this point in time. In fact, mentioning a tornado was thought to be illegal for inducing panic because the weather reports were so bad at getting it right. Even with today's Doppler radar, we can't even see a tornado. We could just predict where it's going to be. But back then, they had no warning. It hit them where they least suspected it. But the story does not end here. It has a very good outcome, because in the days, the weeks, and even years later, the city was rebuilt, and the citizens of Lorain showed the world that the spirit of this city could not be crushed. Now, 100 years later, not many remnants of the disaster are here. Most of the survivors are unfortunately gone, have passed on, but the stories of that day ring out like a bell with a strange tune, once again showing that this city, my city, the international city, and the people that live in there are always and will be Lorain proud. On this day, 100 years later, June 28th, 2024, I was lucky enough to attend the 100th anniversary commencement at Lakeview Park, in the exact spot where the tornado touched down 100 years earlier. It was a somber day. The park alive, like it was 100 years ago. People gossiping in the park, enjoying the summer day. As stated before, most of the survivors, if not all, have passed on in recent years, but their families still have the stories to tell, and on this day, 100 years later, their stories ring out like a bell. Also at Lakeview Park, a commemorative stone is being placed at the Rose Garden as we speak to commemorate the disaster. All of the family members put carnations in a glass to signify a victim, a survivor, a family member, a loved one. So their memory is not in vain. Also, Mayor Bradley of Lorain made a very, very moving speech about the day's events, about how this city, through thick and thin, has always come on top.
If you would like, on the back, you'll notice that there's one stanza that repeats itself. If you'd like to read that with me, feel free. If you'd like just to listen to it, that's okay too. But there is one that repeats throughout the poem. Commemorating lives, the Lorain tornado, written with inspiration by my son Ryan Sager. Though 100 years have passed, yesterday's lives are present. We honor their memories, sharing their stories today. A hot summer day in June, people were cooling off in the refreshing waters of Lake Erie as winds strengthened. Though 100 years have passed, yesterday's lives are present. We honor their memories, sharing their stories today. People were gathering to celebrate a lovely home on 5th Street before they ran to the basement or shelter. Though 100 years have passed, yesterday's lives are present. We honor their memories, sharing their stories today. Friends met for outdoor picnics. Families worked in gardens. Children were walking their dogs. They had such little notice. Though 100 years have passed, yesterday's lives are present. We honor their memories, sharing their stories today. People walked down Broadway Ave, entering State Theater. In stores, people were shopping as skies darkened overhead. Though 100 years have passed, yesterday's lives are present. We honor their memories, sharing their stories today. So much fury, so much loss, so much rebuilding to do. Boys rode for help on their bikes. Others gave shelter and food. Though 100 years have passed, yesterday's lives are present. We honor their memories, sharing their stories today. Our city still remembers, our residents still recall. The date, June the 28th, the year 1924. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelly. We appreciate it. And thank you for letting me have a copy of your phone to take back with us. So Metro Parks has arranged for a permanent commemoration of the tornado to be installed here. So Jim will tell us a little bit about the marker.
Thank you again, So, I think with this, I know some folks came in a little late. I also want to make sure I acknowledge our board president, Vicky McCloda, and her wonderful husband, Les Krieger, who we couldn't do a lot of what we do without the board support. And with that, the people that make the magic here happen every day, all year long. We've got a number of our staff here, Bev Alcorn, Mariah Dietz, Ranger Steve Page, Ranger John Smitty, Assistant Director Jennifer Bracken, and I just want to make sure that, and Tim Lynn Showalter, our manager, is also here, and these are the people that really make it happen. I would appreciate it if you give them a quick round of applause. And for the people that I was able to acknowledge, Council President Joel Hernando is present with us, and County Commissioner Jeff Riddell. I apologize if I missed any other elected officials or appointed officials, but we appreciate your presence and your participation. So what it is, again, is we talked earlier about what we did as part of this restoration renovation of Lakeview. And wait, Judge James Walter, our probate judge, who was actually our big boss, just walked in. So thank you, Judge. He was busy with court. God forbid. We appreciate you doing this job and coming to join us. So we talked about that rose garden and all the great history here related. I shouldn't say great, but all the history related to the tornado. And we talked about those who families perished. And one part of the story I didn't share is we were doing public meetings about redesigning and restoring this facility. The number of people who showed up at some of our meetings who lost and also lost in the building. And it's one of the reasons actually we left that foundation was so important, even though it took a little longer actually to build the project, to deal with some engineering and architectural issues. And a number of people came up in tears at our public meetings saying, my grandparents died in that building. You can't get rid of at least that foundation. That was very near and dear to us. So moving forward, on behalf of Metro Parks, again, we talked about the restoration of that rose garden. Metro Parks would like to leave a gift here in the park in commemoration of that. It'll go in the Rose Garden, and it reads, the Lorain Tornado Centennial Commemoration, June 28, 2024.
Here, Brad.
So, good morning, everyone. Or good afternoon, I should say. And it's a great day in Lorain, Ohio. 100 years ago, it wasn't such a great day, but it was only 5 minutes that that tornado blew into the city of Lorain and destroyed it. When I was a little kid, I asked my grandfather, John Lozano, who came from Italy, Grandpa, what's a tornado? He said it's a big wind. And yeah, it was a big wind that came into Lorain. But we had just gone through a pandemic in Lorain prior to the tornado coming in. And then we had just finished the First World War. So many of the people that were living here in Lorain were veterans from the First World War. So these were people that knew resilience and knew tragedy and knew how to deal with it. So when that big wind came into the city of Lorain and destroyed our city, we had a city of immigrants. And they had the strength and will and perseverance to rebuild our city. But that wasn't the end. I mean, a few years later, we had the Great Depression. And people were working in the city of Lorain, and we had to come together again to help our brothers and our sisters to survive another tragedy in the city of Lorain. Well, we survived the Great Depression. Then we had the Second World War. And many of our sons and daughters had to go to Europe and to the Far East and defend our country. And they did it. They did it proudly. They made us all safe. But that wasn't the last tragedy. Then we had the Korean War. Then we had the Vietnam War. And we recently just had another pandemic in the city of Lorain. But you know what? We have a strong community, a strong resilience, and we do well. So even though it's been 100 years since the big wind came through Lorain, we've continued to work together and have the strength and the tenacity to really continue to move our city forward. And we had U.S. Steel here, we had Ford Motor Company, we had shipbuilding, and it's left. But that doesn't mean that we, bury our heads in the sand and don't continue to move forward. We've changed. We've developed a medical care facility. We've gone into technology. We've brought an international festival to the city of Lorain, which is going on this weekend, which honors all those people that came to this country and to this city to build a great city. And that building is continuing. And that's why we celebrate our nationalities. That's why we celebrate our diversity. And we celebrate the people that have continued to make Lorain a great place to live. Now, I know that after the tornado, people all came out, got together, and one of the people in the crowd said, hey, why was it that the Historical Society didn't get touched by the tornado? And the director of the Historical Society was probably a man at that time. And he was asked that question, and he said, that tornado knew that the artifacts in that Historical Society demonstrated the resilience and perseverance of the citizens of Lorain, and that big wind wasn't going to mess with it. And that's what we are all about in the city of Lorain. So, you know, this is 100 years later, and I hope that in another 100 years, we're going to get together and talk about the 200th commemoration of the tornado, but also about all the good things that continue to happen in the city of Lorain. We have the arts here in the city of Lorain, the Firefish Festival, that is doing wonderful things in bringing the arts to the city of Lorain. We have groups of people that are dedicated to making our community so great. We have the Lighthouse Foundation that makes sure that our lighthouse is preserved and that people go out and visit our lighthouse and have dinners out there. We have so many great things that are going on in our city, and you know, we weren't a city that just folded our tent when that tornado came through and said, oh my gosh, now what do we do? No, we all came together, we worked together, and we became Lorain proud. So I encourage all of you to stay Lorain proud and help us all to continue to move Lorain forward. Thank you very much.